So as we look at the macro level of the influence of communication technology on human development, we're going to break it down into three eras of human communication. The first era was oral culture. The second era was literate culture. And the third era in which we are currently living is electronic culture. Oral culture started 5 million years ago and ended about 4,000 years ago, about 2000 BC. The dominant form of communication to this day remains oral, although other forms of communication have come up to challenge it and to change the way that we live. The creation of language was what began oral culture, when people were able to encode messages and send them to one another through a series of grunts or through a series of words that were recognized. That became oral culture and the creation of language. Now in language there are two types of communication. One is signal communication. Signal communication includes the use of words and nonverbal behaviors that create a shared universe of understanding regarding the object referent of a word or nonverbal behaviors. So this is where we choose certain words to represent certain things, and they have a concrete meaning that we all agree upon so we can share and communicate with one another. The other type of language is symbolic communication, and this includes the words and nonverbal behaviors to create a shared universe regarding subjective associations of a word or of a nonverbal behavior. So symbolic communication is symbols instead of signals. Symbolic communication requires more interpretation. When we look at denotative meaning versus connotative meaning, denotative is the objective meaning of a word. Think of D in denotative and D in dictionary. We can look up words in the dictionary and see the meaning that we have all agreed upon to use for those words. That is denotative communication. Also, signal communication. Signal communication is denotative. Now, connotative communication is the subjective meaning of a word. So what do you connotate out of something? Connotative is more related to symbolic communication. How do you interpret the messages? Let's look at an example. What is this? It's a rose, right? We can look at that and we can say, that's a rose. So for signal communication, we can each say that that picture is a rose, and when I tell you I saw a rose, you know what I'm talking about even if you didn't see the picture, because we've agreed upon that meaning for that particular flower. However, as Shakespeare said, a rose by any other name would still smell as sweet. Rose is a certain flower that has an indicative name that we've agreed to use. So we could have called that a cat, and if we would all have agreed upon that that particular flower should be called a cat, then that would be signal communication. Is that flower any more a rose than a cat? Not really. It's just that we have chosen that particular word to signify that particular object, and we've all agreed upon its use. Another word that we're familiar with is dance. And there are many different ways to do it, but we all still have an idea of what it means. If I tell you I saw someone dancing, you can have a mental picture of generally what it is they were doing. However, for symbolic communication, if someone gives you a rose, what does that mean? Well, does it mean they love you? Does it mean they like you? Does it mean they like you but are afraid to tell you? The color of the rose sometimes makes a difference. I was not aware of this. When I was dating someone in college, I gave her yellow roses at the end of a performance that she had had. And what I did not know was yellow roses are symbolic of friendship and not of love. So symbolic communication requires interpretation. If someone gives you a rose, it may mean many different things. It's not concrete. It's not set out in the dictionary. What about if someone asks you to dance? Does that mean they want to dance with you? Does that mean they want to dance and they feel you are unoffensive? Does that mean any number of other things? What does it mean if somebody asks you to dance? Perhaps they feel sorry for you if they see you sitting on the sidelines. We don't know. And so in symbolic communication, it requires more interpretation, and there's more possibility for error in communication amongst humans with symbolic communication. So now we've talked about the basics behind oral culture and when it took place. Let's think about this. How did having only oral communication technology shape culture and life? Think of this in terms of the evaluation of source credibility and the dissemination of knowledge. And also think about this. How much does communication technology shape society and culture? After you've finished with this presentation, proceed to the discussion section, which will be the next point in Unit 1, and think about answering some of these questions. What does this mean for source credibility, for how knowledge gets passed around, and think about how much does communication technology shape society and culture. If you have any questions, please email me through Blackboard. Good luck.